They were reacting to his story. So yeah, this is his story. It's kind of like history, but it's his story. So yeah.
My twin brother Chris and I were 9 when we learned Morse code. We tapped messages under the dinner table when Mom told us to stop talking and tapped through the flight attendant slipped me a napkin that said, "The pilot isn't who he says he." Every time we heard a knock on the front door, my dad would yell. My daughter came home crying with an F because her teacher doesn't know what color blood is. The first time I became my school's hero for 1 minute before everyone watched what happened next. I don't play around when it comes. My teacher looked at my drawing, covered her mouth, and ran out of the room screaming. Our assignment was to draw something that makes us happy, so I drew me and my dad fishing at the lake, something we do every Saturday. I picked up my paper to see what she saw. 2 stick figures, a fishing rod, a lake, a building that said Larry's Bait and Tackle, and a fish that I even labeled fish in case there was any confusion. I had no idea what I did wrong. She came back with 2 security guards, still screaming, grabbed my drawing off my desk, and pointed at me like I was dangerous. They walked me out without saying a word and sat me down in Principal Carter's office. He had my drawing under a desk lamp like he was examining a ransom note. He looked up. "Explain this." I told him it's me and my dad fishing at the lake. He pointed at my stick figure's hand. "You're telling me this is a fishing rod when I'm looking at a weapon." I told him there's a line coming off it with a fish on the end, and I literally wrote the word fish next to it. Mrs. Keller leaned in. "It looks like he's aiming at the building." I told her it's Larry's Bait and Tackle where we buy worms, and that's where fish live, and that's how fishing works. I didn't understand how every adult in the room was looking at a fish and Principal Carter picked up his phone and called my dad. "Mr. Davis, your son drew an image that appears to depict a school shooting. We need you here immediately." I sat there staring at my drawing, wondering how I ended up here. My dad showed up still in his work shirt with dirt on his hands and stopped in the doorway. "Where is he? What did he draw?"
Wait, is that Dad or a Loki?
Principal Carter slid the drawing across the desk, and my dad picked it up, stared at it, and laughed. Not a chuckle, a full laugh. "This is from last Saturday." He pulled out his phone, turned it around, and the photo was right there. Me standing in front of Larry's Bait and Tackle holding my fishing rod. Same building, same rod, same everything. He looked at the principal. "Is everyone in this room slow? My son drew a fish, labeled it fish, drew a fishing rod, drew a bait shop, and you looked at that and saw a school shooting. Nobody said anything. You pulled my son out of class and called me at work because not one adult in this building stopped and said, 'Hey, maybe that's a fishing rod.'" Mrs. Keller stared at the floor, and Principal Carter had nothing. My dad put the drawing in his pocket. "We're done here. Let's..."
I just wanted to come on here.
Dad measured me for the 5th time that day and screamed, "Why are you still 5'10"? I stared down at my 5'3"
'Cause you short, boy.
dad, and he glared. "Stop looking down at me. No son of mine will ever look down on me. We're going to fix this before it's too late." And so the next day,
Well, he just did it, actually.
Dad came into my room with x-rays of my legs marked with red X's saying, "I found a surgeon who will remove these bones so that you can finally be shorter than me. I already scheduled the surgery." I stared in horror while Dad jumped around saying he couldn't wait to be taller than me. I knew I had to make the surgery impossible, so I started running 26 miles non-stop, and even though it hurt, I kept going until my legs gave out because I needed my bones to be so damaged they couldn't operate on me. And then on the day of my scheduled surgery, the doctor took one look at x-rays of my damaged legs and refused to operate on me. Dad got angry. "Why? He's perfectly fine." But the surgeon shook his head and pointed at the x-ray. "His bones are too damaged. If I cut into them, they could shatter, and a shard of bone could hit his heart. Your son could die." Dad crossed his arms. "I'm okay taking that risk. Just do it so he can be shorter than me." But the doctor kept saying no, and I thought it was finally over. But when we got home, Dad grabbed his toolbox and said, "If a surgeon isn't going to fix this, then I'll do it myself." He chased me around the house screaming, "Get back here! You will be shorter than me!" I ran outside across the yard, and that's when Dad's foot got caught on the garden hose, and he fell down hard, and I saw both his legs were bent the wrong way. Dad screamed, and I called the ambulance, and when they arrived, paramedics loaded him onto a stretcher while one of them questioned me. "How do you know this man?" he asked. When I said he was my dad, his eyes bulged, and he looked back and forth between my dad and me, and then suddenly asked, "How is he your dad? He's so short." Dad thrashed so hard in the stretcher when he heard a paramedic paramedic had to sedate him. Dad measured me for the 5th time that a man climbed onto our school bus with a knife, and the first thing he heard was a slow clap from the back row. Confused, he screamed at our driver, Mrs. Worley, to keep driving and not stop for anyone. A kid leaned forward. Nice ski mask. Did you cut the holes out yourself, or did your mommy help you?
I didn't
The whole
realize
bus
I was
laughed.
recording.
He waved the knife around. Shut up and no one gets hurt. Your hand is shaking so hard I can't tell if that's a threat or...
What the hell?
In the middle of a test, the sprinklers started spraying. Everyone instantly... I was sitting in class when my phone buzzed. Look under your desk.
Oh, heck no.
After 8 years on death row, I was ready to die. They said I killed Rebecca. My fingerprints were on the knife. I was stopped at a red light when headlights flashed across my mirror. And
Blah, 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 headlights. Rain, headlights. That's cringe.
went sideways. The airbag slammed my head back, and guacamole from my DoorDash order flew everywhere. I couldn't hear anything except ringing. I crawled out through the passenger side, tried to stand, and my legs gave out. I'm on my hands and knees on the pavement when I hear, "Bro, what the hell? My brand new car. I just got it yesterday." And out the SD card. He plugged it into his laptop in the cruiser. 30 seconds of footage. My car sitting still at a red light. The Hellcat spinning out of a dealership. The kid laughing right before he slammed into me. Everything the kid told the first cop was a lie. And now we both knew it. He stepped out.
So bro was caught actually being the one who crashed?
If you're married,
I knocked out the smallest, weakest kid in school. While I was bench pressing, he cracked my ribs with a 5-pound dumbbell and smiled. That was Chester. He was 4'11", 85 pounds, and was the worst bully I ever met. His two brothers were 6'6", 300 pounds of pure muscle. Nobody touched Chester because they were terrified of his big brothers. I told the teacher, but he never believed that Chester had the strength to actually hurt anyone. I walked around with 2 cracked ribs for 3 months and couldn't laugh without wincing. A week later, my history teacher stepped out. Chester whispered into my ear, "Have you ever felt a tiger's claw?" Then he stabbed a pencil an inch deep into my back. I bled out onto the floor and everyone gasped. I needed 7 stitches. My teacher asked the class if anyone saw it. Every single student looked away. Chester smiled again. He was loving this power. PE baseball. Chester slammed a metal bat across my knee. I limped for a month. I still feel it when it rains. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anyone. I knew I had to handle this myself. So I started kickboxing. 5 days a week for 6 months straight. I sparred with semi-pros. Got beaten up badly at first, then slowly started landing shots and earned their respect. I stored every one of Chester's hits in the back of my mind. I had a college scholarship and couldn't afford to risk losing it, so I waited for the last day of school. I walked up to him and said, "Hey Chester, have you ever felt a tiger's claw?" He looked confused. Before he could say a word, I threw everything. Punches, kicks, elbows, and laid him out on the concrete, unconscious, bleeding out of his smug face. A crowd gathered and went completely silent.
Dang,
Then
why
his
is
two
the kid
brothers pushed
bald? Yeah. Holy. Wait, I low-key have an idea. Make sure it's shining. Okay.
the crowd and got in my face. "Try that shit on us. Go ahead, try it." I looked up at both of them and said, "You might kill me, but I'll take one of you with me to the grave. I swear it." They went quiet, glanced at each other, then walked away. For as big as they were, they had never actually been tested. Chester had 17 broken bones and ate through a straw for 4 months. No charges were pressed because even his own parents knew he had it coming. When I think about that, when I saw Kimberly walking out of the boys' bathroom, I was in the mall with my daughter when 3 teenagers in black hoodies started following us. I'm a retired cop who used to bust gangs for a living, so I knew a threat when I saw one. I glanced back and saw the guy in front had a gun print showing through his hoodie. My daughter was smiling at her phone while texting, completely oblivious to what was going on. My hand
were they
moved to my
following
hip
us?
to feel for my own gun. My heart dropped. It wasn't there. We were defenseless. I needed to get my daughter Aaliyah to leave without telling her about the guy with the gun. "Let's get back to the car. We can come back another day." She looked at me confused. "No way, Dad. We just got here. Let me check this store real quick." I glanced behind us, and the teenagers were getting closer. I grabbed her arm. "We're leaving. Now." She rolled her eyes. "Fine, but I need to pee first." She ran into the bathroom, and the second the door closed, the guy with the gun print was standing right in front of me. He pulled the gun halfway out of his pocket. "Walk away, old man. Leave the girl with us. Now, this is your only warning." His hand moved to his waistband, but I managed to lunge for his wrist before he could pull the gun all the way out. Aaliyah walked out of the bathroom and saw us. "Ah!" The other two teenagers froze when they saw me pin their friend to the wall. I grabbed the gun off the floor and pointed it at them. But as I held it, I realized the gun was lighter than usual. I turned the gun over and saw a tiny orange tip on the barrel. It was a toy. How old are you? His cheek was pressed against the wall. 16. I looked at Aaliyah, who was staring at me. Dad, I know him. That's my boyfriend. I was just texting him earlier. I let go of him, and he wouldn't look at me. When I saw you with him, I thought she was cheating on me with you, so I wanted to scare you with a toy gun. I held up the toy gun. Aaliyah, after you two break up, make sure your next boyfriend isn't a little bitch. I was in the mall. My neighbor kept destroying our snowmen, so I made sure the next one fought back. We'd spent the whole day building an 8-foot snowman, and it was just getting dark.
Is Stanley Cup again?
I flipped the water bottle and watched it land, and the whole class went berserk. Our teacher had said if I got it 10 times in a row, there'd be no homework for midterm, and I only needed one more flip. Everyone gathered round, and I took a deep breath, swinging it precisely. It came off my hand perfectly and started rotating through the air as planned. I smiled because I was about to go down as class legend, but then I saw a hand fly through the air, and right as my bottle was about to land, the hand slapped it off course. The bottle flew into the wall and fell. I looked over to see who hit it and saw the teacher grinning ear to ear. Nobody cheats my class. We started protesting, but he shouted to sit down, and whoever doesn't sit in the next 5 seconds will get double the homework. He then went handing out the 5,000-word essay due in 7 days with a smile. Format your references as I asked, or you fail automatically. He sat at his desk and started flipping his own bottle to mock us, but that's when a kid from the back started laughing. The teacher leaned forward. What are you laughing at? But the kid just kept laughing and pointing behind him. The teacher started storming over, red in the face. What are you laughing at? But then suddenly he stopped, and his face changed color. The bottle I'd flipped was standing. Turns out when he'd hit it, it bounced off the wall straight on and fell down landing perfectly upright. I'd officially flipped it 10 times in a row, and he had no choice but to take the essays off our desks. His jaw was clenched the whole time.
That's
I flipped
so
the water
cute.
bottle and watched it. I woke up at a sleepover and realized I had 2 hours to save my entire reputation before anyone else woke
I
up.
wet the
reached
bed
down
at
and
the
touched the
sleepover.
fabric and realized I had wet the bed. I lay there completely still, listening
You
to
wet the
4 other
bed?
guys breathing around me in the dark. It was 5 a.m. If anyone woke up before I fixed this, I would have to switch schools. My backpack was next to the couch. I got to it on my hands and knees. A woman in Target told me to take off my hoodie and give it to her son. I was in the checkout line I was watching the New Year's fireworks exploding while my dog sat calmly beside me. Gringo did 2
He
years
hurt
in
my
Iraq
dog.
with
Who
me and
hurt
wasn't
your
scared
dog?
of loud noises. But then a lit firework came flying straight at us. I scrambled to get Gringo, but I wasn't fast enough. The firework went off near his leg, and Gringo immediately yelped. When I looked over, a punk teenager was staring at us and smirking from the pavement.
Why he
Maybe
look
now
like
that
that?
dog will finally start being scared of my fireworks. I balled my fist as I wanted to lay him out, but I couldn't hit a teenager. I drove Gringo
No
to the
duh.
hospital as he sat silently shaking in my car, quiet despite the terrible pain. The vet told me they'd have to amputate his leg. Gringo rolled home with me in a dog wheelchair for his back legs. The teenager stood right there with more fireworks in hand. Every day for
He's
the next
gonna
2
just-
weeks, he set them off when me and Gringo walked outside. I gripped my head in horror because Gringo had started shaking and being afraid, something 2 years in Iraq never even did to him. I watched the punk bring a box of fireworks
I'm
into his
looking at
shed
my
and knew I
brother's
had to
screen right
act.
now.
I called Hughes, the bomb diffuser I served with, and that night we were in the shed rigging his fireworks. We walked to his
How
door
is
and saw
bro
him
at
through the
this
window
level?
throwing darts at a board full of pictures of dogs. We rang, and he opened. Are you here to beg me to stop with the fireworks? Your dog can't take much more. He laughed, but then Hughes held up a soul firework. He stuck it to the punk's hand before he could reply, and I held up a detonator. Now walk with us, or your hand goes boom. His face instantly went pale. You're lying, but me and Hughes dragged him out to his backyard. Gringo was right there, watching. Now we're gonna take your hand the way you took his foot. His legs began trembling, and he dropped to his knees, and I pressed the
Wait,
detonator.
gang.
It beeped once, and I laughed. Now I'll give you a 3-second countdown to prepare before it blows for real. I held my finger inches from the button. 3, he cried. No, please. I'll do anything. 2, please stop. 1, P was running down his leg as Gringo wagged his tail. 0, I pressed the button. The punk closed his eyes and pressed his hand into the dirt, but nothing happened. What's going on? He said through tears. Me and Hughes got in his face. I wanted you to feel the fear my dog felt, but because I'm nice, I won't actually take one of your limbs, even if you deserve it. But if I see you light another firework. My grandfather hunted every weekend for 40 years and never came home. We were in the middle of a test when I caught a student whispering and pointing into his backpack. But just as I was about to stand up and bust him for cheating, he pulled out something metal and black.
Oh.
My teacher stormed into class and yelled, "Who here watches anime?" 10 of us. I climbed into my bed with a grin, feeling my jeans press against the duvet covers. My dad came over and leaned against my door. "I'm sorry I said no to you going to the party, son, but I know the kids there. It's too dangerous." He walked back to his room, and I instantly got up from the cover. I got banned from an all-you-can-eat buffet, so I made sure the owner never forgot my face. I spent the whole day before starving myself on purpose. So when I walked into that buffet, I loaded my first plate so high, the server stopped and watched me carry it to my table. I could see the steam rising off the ribs as I sat down. I took my first bite and savored every second of it. That was just the start. Second plate, I went back for lasagna, mashed potatoes, and a pile of garlic bread. By my third plate, the servers started slowing down every time they walked past my table. One of them stopped and just stared at me like I was eating her groceries. By my fifth plate, I caught a tiny Asian man peeking out at me from behind the soda machine every few seconds. Plate 7. I stacked another round of ribs on my tray like building blocks and grabbed a handful of brownies from the kids section. That was it for him. He marched out from behind the machine with 2 workers behind him. Stop eating. You here since 4 o'clock. My cooks are crying. You here since 4 o'clock. It says all you can eat. He told me to get out. I stood up. No, it's all you eat buffet, you idiot. Making plate 8. He pulled out his phone and called the cops. I sat back down and kept eating. I was mid-bite with sauce dripping down my chin when 2 officers walked through the front door. Every head in the restaurant turned. The officers looked confused. What exactly did he do? The manager threw his hands in the air. "This man eats 7 plate. 7! I call you 10 minutes ago, and he go back for more." One of the officers took off his hat and rubbed his whole face with his hand. "Sir, could you just go, please?" They walked me out. I still had food on my plate. The manager followed us to the door. "You banned. Forever. I put your picture on the wall so nobody forget you face." So I got revenge. The next week I sat down at my kitchen table and designed a flyer. Free lobster tail night. First 100 guests eat free. I printed 200 copies and spent a whole afternoon sliding them under windshields all over town. That Friday night, I bought a box of ribs from the place across the street and sat on the hood of my car in his parking lot. By 6, the lot was full. By 7, people were lined up out the door waving flyers in the air demanding their free lobster. The manager came outside sweating through his shirt. "I don't have lobster. This a buffet. What I look like Gordon Ramsay." A woman in the front started banging on the window. A man in the back yelled they weren't leaving until they got their lobster. Someone picked up a pile of dog poop off the ground and launched it right at his face. The manager was spinning in circles screaming, and that's when he saw me. I held up a rib and took a bite. Delicious. I got banned from an all-you-can-eat. My parents walked into my room mid-game and unplugged my console. My dad held up my report card with a D in algebra and said, "No more games until your grades come up." The next I took one puff of my inhaler and the alarm exploded. The bathroom door flew open and the vice Brennan slammed his Beyblade down onto the girl with Down syndrome's tray and shredded her sandwich into pieces. She sat there stunned, tears welling up in her eyes. I turned to him. My 12-year-old sister and I were home alone upstairs when we heard the front door burst open. A voice I didn't recognize yelled, "Fire, fire!" The first punch I ever threw put someone in the hospital. I'd never been in a fight, not in middle school. Okay, that's all that we got for today, guys. Bye. Peace out.